Wine is a pure reflection of its terroir, and no other single product sums up its cultural, geographical, and historical origins in quite the same way. Each harvest yields wines that are different in the culmination of the human and climatic processes, so no two wines are ever identical. Wine could be as simple or as complex as you wish. On one level, it could be an immediate sensory pleasure, or at a deeper level, the embodiment of a piece of land or a moment in time.
Wine is thought to have originated in the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, and it has been part of world culture since historical records began. A feature of ancient Greek and Roman civilizations, the god Dionysus, or Bacchus, invited celebration with wine, bringing it firmly into the Mediterranean way of life. Subsequently, it became an important part of Christian religion, with European monasteries in the Middle Ages doing much to advance the quality of wine, improving vine-growing techniques and wine-making operations in the cellar. In the 16th century, as Europeans ventured into the New World, their religion and their vines went with them. Being clean and safer to drink than water, wine became as much a part of daily life slaking thirst as it was an important element of religion's tradition. Meanwhile, wine trading in Europe burgeoned out of major export centers Bordeaux, Porto, and Venice. The wine world as we know it began to take shape. Today, more than ever, wine is part of everyday life throughout the world, both as a celebratory drink and a versatile partner to food. That it has become so intrinsic to world culture is hardly surprising. Aside from the relaxing effects of alcohol, wine continues to fascinate with its ever-changing character, so inextricably linked to the land, people, and culture that created it.
By the end of the 20th century, the world had over 8 million hectares under the vine and was producing over 300 million hectoliters of wine. Today, it is virtually everywhere, from Chile to South Africa to New Zealand and China. The world map of wine shows that vineyards are concentrated between 31 and 51 degrees in the northern hemisphere and between 28 and 42 degrees in the southern.
Mediterranean Europe is the heartland of viticulture. Here, there are around 240 hours of sunshine a month, temperatures averaging 63 Fahrenheit, 70 degrees Celsius in the growing season, an annual rainfall of around 24 inches, and crisp coldness to the winters, which allows the vines a period of dormancy. The classic regions of Bordeaux, Burgundy, and the Rhone Valley, Rioja, and Tuscany benefit from these ideal conditions, and their wines have consequently developed as global benchmarks. It is in these old world regions that terroir is all important. Find the right terroir, and the resulting wines will have the most harmonious composition with acidity, sweetness, fruit, flavors, and tannins, all poised to perfection. With the wrong terroir, the harvest will all too often fail. It is the pursuit of new terroir that has led wine growers to venture into viticultural unexplored corners of Europe and into the New World. Many of the newfound lands have proved easy vineyard territory, growing grapes prolifically in the heat with little apparent effort. But more and more producers have found that the best wines come from vineyards where heat is tempered by the soothing effects of water, a lake, river, or coastline, or the cooling influence of altitude. When the vines have to work harder to survive, grapes tend to develop more refined flavors.
Today, wine is said to come from the Old World or the New. The Old World is at the heartland of vine growing, where viticulture has evolved since 7000 BC. Classic regions like France, Spain, and Italy are at the core and sum up all that is traditional about making wine the time-honored way. The New World comprises of the pioneering vineyards of the Southern Hemisphere and North America, which were established by missionaries and explorers from the 14th century onward. Chile, Argentina, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and California all fall into the New World category.
Until recently, it was relatively easy to pick up a glass of wine and identify with a small sniff and a sip whether it was from the New World or the Old. A New World wine would have all the rich fruit flavors and aromas that reflect warm climate vineyards. An Old World wine, example, would be more subtle, with delicate, complex aromas and leaner, multi-dimensional flavors. Today, this difference is no longer marked as it once was. Improved grape growing and winemaking techniques mean that an Old World wine can taste as luscious and ripe as New World version. The reverse is also true, and New World winemaking is learning much from the Old. Viticulturalists are seeking out cooler pockets of vineyard to grow grapes with more subtle flavors. In the winery, Old World techniques such as barrel fermenting, use of wild yeast, and lees stirring are all being adopted to generate more complexity in the wine. All of this means that the flavor boundaries between Old and New World wines are becoming increasingly blurred. Wine is made in many different styles and at many different quality levels. Techniques in the winery are now so advanced that with recourse to appropriate grapes, a winemaker can create virtually whatever he or she chooses. A few bottles of carefully crafted prestige wine can be made from top quality vineyards to reflect a terroir, or wine may be skillfully blended from many vineyards in greater, more commercial quantities. Each of these wines has distinct advantages. The blended wines have the potential to become world brands. The art with branded wines is to make each batch and each vintage the same as the last. These are wines in which reliability comes first. Since they are made in bulk, they are also infinitely more affordable and widely available. Purists, however, argue that it is the estate wines that show the real diversity of wine. These wines are a true reflection of their land and culture. Made on a smaller scale, they are more difficult to obtain and can be significantly more expensive. These are the wines that evoke passionate discussion, fervent opinions, and genuine loyalty. They are also the wines that undergo near miraculous flavor transformation when laid down to age for a few years. They have flavors and aromas that linger on the palate and memory. They are what real wine is all about. In the more traditional wine-drinking countries, France, Italy, Spain, where production is high, there has been a considerable slump in consumption over the last 30 years. First, water quality has improved, so wine is no longer needed as a general beverage. Second, wine is no longer perceived as a nutritional source, but is an impediment to work performance. And third, there has been a decline in cafe drinking. Additionally, in an effort to combat overproduction and an ever-growing European wine lake, wine is being produced in smaller quantities and to a higher standard. Quality, and the price that goes with it, means it is no longer used for quaffing, but for sipping and enjoying. In the English-speaking world, however, the picture is quite different. Wine consumption in the UK, for example, has risen over 500% since 1970. The surge in wine's popularity is a direct result of the huge quantities of affordable, ripe-fruited New World wines flooding onto the market and the advent of branded wines. With increased opportunities for cheaper foreign travel, potential wine drinkers are also now being introduced to a greater variety of wines. There is also a general belief that wine and healthy living go hand in hand. Wine's benefits as a social beverage, a health giver, and all-around focus of interest suggest that it will be part of culture for many years to come.